But apparently, we're not going because of the dummy governor they've got down there. I'm joined by Representative Mike Gallagher, congressman from Wisconsin. Milwaukee has a convention. Is Milwaukee still going to let the Democrats come, Mike Gallagher?
That is the plan at present. There's some debate between the mayor and the DNC over the proper security procedures, the level of testing. But as I understand it, as of yesterday, they plan to move forward.
Well, it looks like we're going to go to Florida or Tennessee. Have you got any updates on that? What are they telling congressmen, members of our own party?
Well, my idea would be let's do it in Green Bay. That would be extraordinarily convenient for
Why,
me.
we'd lose then. Republicans
no.
would lose if we went to Green Bay. I don't want to
You,
jinx this. And we don't have.
you,
We're not
you.
changing quarterbacks either. All right, you guys are changing quarterbacks, and we're not going to do that.
Hugh, so goes Green Bay, so goes the Republic. We all know that's true. It's been true since the beginning of our country. So
All right,
everyone
in any
is
event,
welcome here.
have they told you anything? Because obviously it's an RNC decision with the president's political team. It's not a congressional decision.
They have not told me. There is an interesting thing going on behind the scenes where a variety of my colleagues are trying to get in the president's ear and sway him towards their home city. I actually have not done that with Green Bay. The reason we don't hold the draft in Green Bay, as I understand it, is that we don't have the hotel capacity.
God bless Green
So,
Bay, but you guys can't
yeah.
handle a football game. I mean, honestly, it's sort of like the people have to set up their trailers in the next town over, whatever it is. So I'm just.
Hugh, I would like to invite you up to Lambeau this season, okay? So you can see for yourself what Titletown is like.
Oh, the
really
key
rid
thing.
yourselves of the Browns demons.
Just go back to Cleveland. If the president is listening, just go back to Cleveland. We had a great, lucky charm. It's a lucky foot we won. Look, Mike Gallagher, I have a serious question. People haven't been watching this much, but during our period of unrest, which I think is blessedly over because of the president and gave the cue on Monday night, and everybody got ready to crack down, and protesters are not dummies, and Antifa know they're outnumbered. They got calm last night. My question is, during this 5 days, what has the Chinese communists been up to with their information operation?
Well, it's been a field day for them. And of course, throughout the coronavirus crisis, they have deployed what has been referred to as wolf warrior diplomacy. And this is a reference to the highest grossing Chinese movie of all time, Wolf Warrior 2, which, like Wolf Warrior 1, ends with the Chinese hero stabbing an American ex-mercenary to death after the American arrogantly says, we will always be superior to you. So it's bound up in this notion, after a century of humiliation, of reasserting China's rightful superiority globally. And I think while we might see a lot of what Chinese diplomats are doing as very ham-handed and likely to turn people off, we have to recognize that at least domestically, there is a large audience they're playing to. And of course, in the last few days, we've seen Chinese officials go into overdrive in trolling their American counterparts with protest slogans like Black Lives Matter and I Can't Breathe, really propagating this on social media. Chinese state-run media is featuring stories about the double standards of the U.S. for supporting Hong Kong demonstrators. And of course, this comes at the worst possible time, which is the anniversary of Tiananmen Square. And so I think it's incumbent upon the anarchists in America, notably Antifa and others, who are taking advantage of the peaceful protesters who have a right to protest and who are rightfully outraged, to stop what they're doing, because it's a bad look for America. And also, it does no justice to the cause that the peaceful protesters are out there. And certainly, I think all of us who follow U.S.-China competition need to grapple with this question of how do we convince our social media companies to hold the Chinese Communist Party apparatchiks and propagandists to at least the same standard they're holding the president of the United States. My argument to Jack Dorsey at Twitter was we should not allow government officials on Twitter when they deny their own citizens access to that platform. But Jack Dorsey did not respond to my letter. He just sent one of his underlings to give me a 15-page Orwellian language-filled bit of nonsense. And so they don't seem willing to take action against these CCP propagandists.
I am reading from the National Review of Wolf Warrior 2's review. It says both movies, Wolf Warrior 1 and 2, are replete with nationalistic messages, patriotic themes, and they share a tagline, quote, anyone who offends China, no matter how remote, must be exterminated. If the original movie showed off China's technological advancement, military might, and determination domestically, Wolf 2 is all about demonstrating China's ambitions and aspirations internationally. In Wolf 2, China is the only powerful, responsible, and benevolent world power. Chinese workers help Africans build their economy. Chinese doctors work to discover a cure for a deadly pandemic, and the film unabashedly takes several swipes at the U.S. I actually had never heard of the movie until 2 minutes ago, Mike Gallagher. So you finally contributed something other than Green Bay Packers propaganda. I'd never heard of these movies until 2 minutes ago.
Well, you're welcome, Hugh. You can watch them for free on YouTube, and I would highly recommend it because, as you rightly point out, the original 2015 Wolf Warrior ends with the hero is named Lang Feng. His commanding general very subtly sums up the movie's message by saying, those who challenge China's resolve will have no safe place to hide. And that, I think, is really the transition we've seen, particularly under General Secretary Xi Jinping. It's to very aggressively challenge everybody around the world. He, in my opinion, feels like he has a window of opportunity here that ultimately will culminate. And I may get criticized for this, but this is what he said in Taiwan's reunification with the mainland. Make no mistake, that is the legacy issue for Xi Jinping. And what we're seeing in Hong Kong, I think, is a prelude to that. And so I would recommend watching that. It's almost comical. The bad guy in both movies, as I mentioned before, they're both American military, a Navy SEAL in one case with cartoonish names. One is Tomcat, the other is Big Daddy. And so clearly I think this is a window into sort of culturally how some of these themes that Chinese diplomats are using actually play very well domestically.
Now, Mike Gallagher, when you get close to 100,000 followers, you begin to pick up trolls. When you get to 200,000, and I'm just knocking on the door of that, you've got trolls out the. All I do is mute them. I never block them. I just mute people because I don't want them to know they've risen to the level of. I want them to keep working at trolling me when they can't. I have noticed a huge uptick of bizarre kind of off grammar comments in my feed. And I just think that this is the CCP working overtime. Has there been any report to Congress yet from the DNI, your former colleague, DNI Ratcliffe now, about what's going on? Because I think it's palpable what's happening in the information operation world.
Not yet, but this is something we're looking at as part of the China task force that I am on, that Congressman McCarthy rightfully set up, and we still hope to have Democratic participation in this. There's been some really good work in the think tank community. RAND has a recent report about this issue. The Henry Jackson Society in the UK has taken a look at this. So there's a lot of people looking at this issue. In fact, what's interesting is the president's recent decision to bar Chinese students with PLA affiliations from studying in the United States was actually the product of at least 5 years of work by a young kid, mid-20s, named Alex Josky in Australia, that's done the hard work of mapping out how Chinese Communist Party United Front actually works. So there's a lot of people that are slowly waking up to this, but we haven't quite yet figured out, and I will admit I haven't quite yet figured out, how do we convince our own social media companies to tackle this in a responsible way and recognize that, America's the good guys and the communists are the bad guys.
So if this had happened in the 30s, we would have seen the Nazis not only be covert on the internet, but also set up dummy accounts to push forward Nazi theory, Nazi responses, Nazi division. That's what the CCP is doing now. Is that a fair statement?
I think so. I mean, obviously, you mentioned your Twitter followers and your trolls. You'll get savaged anytime you make a comparison between the 30s and the present day. But the fact is, I think there are certain lessons from the early 30s and late 30s, if not the late 70s, which is something the first time I went on your show, I talked about with Robert O'Brien. In fact, I talked about the parallels between the late 70s and the present moment. That was back in 2016. And I think the most obvious one is you can't allow this type of aggression, whether it's physical aggression, military aggression, like island building in the South China Sea, or It's ideological warfare, which is what is taking place online right now. You cannot allow that to go unchecked, because if you do, you will get more aggression. And I think what most people still don't understand is that the Chinese Communist Party, under the leadership of General Secretary Xi Jinping, this isn't a situation in which 5 years from now we're going to arrive at some modus vivendi and we'll have, different spheres of influence and we'll live peacefully. Their vision for the future is incompatible with our vision for the future unless we are willing to be relegated to only playing in our little Western hemisphere here in our near abroad, which is unacceptable to most Americans. And so at some point, we are going to have to realize that we have to start waging this new Cold War with a comprehensive set of tools, and we're not doing that right now.
So, last question, Mike Gallagher. Last week, I had you and Senator Angus King, independent from Maine, who caucuses with the Democrats. You were co-chairs of the Cyber Security Solarium Commission. There was a little momentum for putting those commission recommendations into phase 4. The riots have basically cleared the table of any coherent argument in the Capitol. Is there still an opportunity to do that?
There is, but we never started off with a strategy that depended on a phase 4. We're trying to get a lot of our recommendations into the National Defense Authorization Act, which is still moving forward, even though Nancy Pelosi has effectively disbanded the House of Representatives and surrendered all of our votes to a small select group of people. Still moving forward. That's our primary vehicle. And then we're working with great senators like my own, Ron Johnson, in the Senate, to work through some legislation that can't go on NDAA. And again, in addition to Angus King, for whom I have undying love, is a great American. We have the great leadership of Mark Montgomery, who is our staff director, who is just doing incredible work behind the scenes right now.
Mike Gallagher, always a pleasure to speak with you, but the idea of a convention in Green Bay, boy, that's a good way to kill the convention. I'm just saying, go back to Cleveland, Mr. President. Go back to Cleveland. Thank you,
I've
Mike.
got an open couch for you, Hugh, an open couch for you.
No, not going to Green Bay. I'd be the only reporter there.